We'd like to welcome the citizens of North Augusta to our study session on July the 11th, which is today at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. And at this point in time, I will turn it over to our city administrator, Mr. Jim, and you can move with it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So for this evening, we have three items. One is the city council meeting review. The second is our department details by our directors and senior managers. And last, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Bob Brooks for Mayor's Matters. So first, for the council meeting, we have one piece of old business, unfinished business, and I'll skip right to that, which is listed as item number 7 on the proposed agenda. For annexation, ordinance number 2022-10, to change the corporate limits of the city of North Augusta by accepting the petition requesting annexation by the landowners and annexing plus or minus 0.25 acres of property located at 205 Thaxton Court and owned by Lucy Joy Investments, LLC, ordinance second reading. So within your packet, you can see the parcel that is highlighted, which is right at the entrance of a cul-de-sac. And again, all it does is expands the city limits by one lot, and based on the construction company and investor there, they develop a piece of property and then ask to have it annexed into the city at that point in time. So not a whole lot of discussion on this from our previous study session or council meeting, but this is the second reading of that ordinance for annexation for our next council meeting.
And this is another way of filling in those vacant areas, the donut holes, as I call them. This is a way of filling them in. Thank you.
I had one question. Was there any question about the one lot that's going to be landlocked right behind there? Do you have any clue if those people have a plan with that one or anything? I know it's not in their petition, but there's a landlocked property. I mean, I guess not. It's got the cul-de-sac there. And ignore that.
Okay. So if I may, I'll move on to new business. And so what I've asked is our planning director, Tommy Paradise, to be prepared to give you a briefing on two separate items. So what I'll do is I'll read both of those now because they're both in the presentation that Tommy's going to do. So the first item under new business, item number 8, under planning and development, which would be ordinance number 2022-11 to approve the general development plan for the 1,368 plus or minus acre Highland Springs plan development, generally located east of US 25 and south of Oscaga Lake Road, ordinance first reading. And so also to orient the council and also our citizens watching at home, this is the large tract of land which is just east of Fire Station 3 and east of 520, and it's also the very plot of land that the Highland Springs elementary and middle schools are being built on, and those will go on the very south end of that very large tract, and the development in question here is on the north side of that tract. So that's one thing that Tommy will be talking about this evening. And then the next will also be under planning and development, which is item number 9, ordinance number 2022-12, to approve the general development plan for the 51.85 plus or minus acre Bluegrass Place plan development on East Martintown Road and East Buena Vista, ordinance first reading. And if I can also orient the council and our citizens at home, this we've referred to previously as the Mealing Tract, and this is a plot of land that sits between Martintown Road and East Buena Vista, and the southern terminus of that property comes out not too far from where the public safety headquarters is, and extends into Martintown Road. And so that's also a mixed development that's been discussed, but this will be our first formal presentation at council for an ordinance reading. And so with that, if I could, I'm going to have Tommy come up and be able to brief you more fully on those two actions and be able to answer any of your questions you have them at this time. So Tommy, I'll turn it over to you.
This is a request from John Beeson for a major modification of the plan development. One of the things, council, we need to remember as we look at this modification, or I think it's important, is that there's already a plan development approved for this development. And that development would develop this property under not the current code, not the future code, but the code from, I believe it was 1996. So, there's some gives in this because, as you'll see, we tie it into keeping up with our current codes as we go forward. But some of the things that he's allowed to do, he didn't want to give those up. So there was some back and forth. But this is about 1,368 acres. Where do I point it to? Whoop, there we go. This is the map, the general development plan. Those portions that are, you'll see A1, A2, A3, those are all A's as far as uses go. I asked the developer to break it down into smaller tracts so that we could track them better in the office. But your A's would be your light industrial and heavy commercial, shopping centers and that type of thing. Your B is your village center. C, there's 3 different kinds of mixed residential here. C, D, and E. C is single family and neighborhood commercial, which includes professional, educational, church, grocery, laundry, convenience, child care, and that type thing. Then you have D, which is your duplexes, townhouses, apartments, condos, single family, and educational. See, there's no commercial there. E is mixed residential, which is single family detached, patio homes, and the neighborhood commercial with the same uses as above. F is green space, and G is for general commercial for shopping centers, grocery stores, retail, restaurants, and that type of thing. So you'll also see the blue roads there. The one that goes from the top to the bottom, the wide blue one, it would be the boulevard, as we would call it, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then the other one at the top is a corridor road, and that's important when we get to some of our improvements. Now, the other big thing on this is, what about traffic? This is going to generate a lot of traffic. This really is difficult for me to visualize, and so I got Kevin and Ricky to put this together for me so you could kind of see where the traffic improvements would go. But basically at Blanchard Road and State Road 33, that would convert to a signalized intersection. 126 and Cherokee Drive would be signalized. Old Sudlow Lake Road and Blanchard Road would be signalized. US 25 connector and driveway 2 toward the top would be have some turn lanes and lane improvements there. Old Sudlow Lake Road at driveway 3 would also have some intersection improvements with turn lanes. Old Sudlow Lake and driveway 4 would have intersection improvements and turn lanes. And Old Sudlow Lake Road and driveway 5 would also have turn lanes and improvements. Old Sudlow Lake driveway 6 would have traffic improvements. and Old Sudlow Lake Road with State Road 126 would have intersection improvements. Now, whenever I talk about intersection improvements, that's not that, and I say this because this was a ask from the mayor whenever I met with him, is that's not the city's bill to pay. That will be either developer or, you know, it may be that one of these intersections trips a warrant for a traffic light for signalization before the developer develops that area, and DOT puts it in before he gets there. But that's the two ways that I see that being funded. And in the traffic impact study, you have, it's broken down, and I didn't put this up there, but he's got different categories in there. And so when they complete this section of the project, then these improvements need to be made. Next section, next section. So he also put some dates in the traffic impact analysis. I don't hold them to those dates so much because it's all in how quick it develops and what he develops where, how the market is going to run us. Now, what are some of the changes?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Do you think this will have a major effect on the completion of Highway 25 from US 1 back to 520? There was a contract already on that, but they sort of pulled back on it.
I don't know. I wasn't aware of that, to be honest with you, Mr. Brooks, but I would think it would. I would think it'd move that forward.
I mean, they've already, a year and a half ago, they cleared the right-of-way, and then they just pulled back.
Bob, are you referring to the first bullet, like the rerouting of US 25 Edgefield? To have additional lanes? Potentially?
Right.
Tommy, the only question I had, so on our package, you know, everything's a recommendation through the South Carolina DOT. So since it's recommended, it's going to be a requirement to the developer,
Right.
but not sticking to the dates necessarily.
Correct.
I was referring to Clearwater Road. Improvements on Clearwater Road, which they pulled back off.
Yeah.
I would think that would help move them forward, but I'm not familiar with the plans. I need to check on that one.
Okay, thank you.
First question you asked me, Mr. Brooks, I said, I'm going to have to check and get back with you. What can I say? But yeah, in fact, we are incorporating the traffic impact study by reference. And of course, we're going to hold, we're here to look out for North Augusta citizens. And the developer, that's part of his bill, is to make these improvements as we build out.
Thank you.
Tommy, can I ask you to step back for 1 second?
Sure.
I don't have my glasses. But the blue lines on the first...
On this one?
Yeah, the ones with the blue and the arrows, what
Mhm.
do those mean?
Those are where there'll be, the one going north to south is the boulevard, Blanchard Boulevard. And that'll be kind of controlled access. It'll be 2 12-foot lanes with a 12-foot median, and with intersections only going into, you'll only have an intersection like in the C4 and another one in the C3. There'll be limited intersections along
Each
there.
section will have like one entrance.
Right,
kinda.
or limited entrances.
And
And
then
the same thing on the other side with the commercial.
So back over there, like C5, those are like potential ways to get it
Correct,
out of there,
correct.
but not definite yet.
Yeah, it's showing that we're going to have an entrance there
Okay.
somewhere,
All right.
but it hadn't been designed out.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the big thing, and like I was saying, remember, he can build by the old code. So we're trying to get him into the new code. The old plan had 100 and 200-foot buffers around the perimeter. He wanted to reduce those to 40 and 50 feet, which would fit with our current code. The original version had a maximum, he could build out 7,900 residential units. One of our concerns was, all right, you're doing away with these buffers, squeeze more houses in. So there's actually a reduction in the number of houses he can build to 5,000. He could build 1,189 apartments. He agreed to reduce that to 1,000. The development code in effect at the time of the submittal, will be applicable for the various sections. So that we bring the new development code online, he'll have to comply with that. And so with that, he wanted some, all right, this is what I need that I'm concerned about. One of those was reduce the front setback for single family from 25 to 20 feet. He wanted to increase the height restrictions from 35 to 40 feet, townhomes from 35 to 40 feet, condominiums from 45 to 50, apartments from 45 to 50. And there you have the note there of what it currently is. So it's about 5 feet additional height for all those. It's for a higher roof pitch, according to him. I think he's measuring to the top of the roof instead of the median. But the R5 actually, in the multifamily areas, he could go to 65 feet where he's limited to 50 feet under this code.
So this is the new code.
What council passes will be the code that he goes by.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. We will, we'll look at the code, at the ordinance, see if it's addressed in the ordinance. Then we'll look, if it's not addressed there, we'll go to the general development plan that's attached to the ordinance. If it's not developed there, if it's not addressed there, then we would go to development code that's in effect at the time. He was concerned about in the future not being allowed to masquerade, so that's in there. The lot sizes will be based on density instead of specific sizes. Concrete slab construction's allowed. Of course, you know, commercial's going to have concrete slabs, and that's kind of the modern day construction now. Exterior construction can be masonry, fiber cement, siding, vinyl siding, or any combination.
Tommy,
Yes, sir.
just real quick. The only thing I worry about, you know, given the exceptions on the 35 to 40 or whatever, are we opening ourselves up for a can of worms from someone else going, well, hey, you gave this guy permission, but not us?
I think this guy's developing 1,300 acres.
Yeah.
And it's a lot different. He's establishing the standards in this part of town, which, if it's a different part of town, it's already more densely populated under this other standard, I can make an argument. Now, Kelly may disagree with me. I always look at it as each is on its own.
I mean, I get that. You have different neighborhoods here, even downtown, that are different than the next one. I mean, you're talking about the setbacks and things like that. I mean, you go right here to Hammond's Ferry. They're, I think, what is it, a 5-foot setback? It's not much. 3? Okay. So, I mean, yeah, I just wanted to kind of make sure that that does happen from neighborhood to neighborhood.
And to be honest with you, the building heights like this a lot of time come in as a waiver during the planning commission, and usually there's not an issue in getting those approved. So I think it's kind of standard if they need it.
The other question I had too was concerning the apartments. I see they went down on the units. Now, are they talking about, is this because we hadn't seen a master plan. I mean, as far as this is going to be single family here, this is going to be this here. I do get concerned with, too many apartments in the city. If it's part of a mixed use, that's a little bit easier to swallow than if it's a standalone thing. But could he, if we pass this, I mean, we have no say-so whether he decides to put one big apartment building here and that has 1,000 units, or he spreads them, throughout.
In talking to him, I think his first phase will be about a 300-unit apartment complex and some single-family attached. I don't think he's looking to group them all in one area.
Okay.
But remember, today, he could do 1,100 and something in one spot,
Right, and that's
and that's scary.
right.
He was very, during our conversations, I talked to him about council's concerns about the multifamily, and, he was trying to, there's some give and take there, and that's some of his give.
Well, and again, I'm not a big fan of just having a standalone apartment complex. Generally, they do good for a few years and they run downhill. That's my opinion. I mean, we have it here in town, but when it's part of a mixed-use development, which you've seen in other, out in Grovetown and Evans, I know they have some out there that seem to work pretty good, and, so far so good right down here at Ironwood. But yeah, I guess that's the big thing is, as long as it's all mixed in there together, if he ended up doing, say, 3 or 4 250 to 300 units mixed in with townhomes or single-family homes, that would be great. But, basically, once we pass this, he could literally just say, all right, I'm going to build one big, huge complex here, more or less.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And, if council wanted to put some stipulations in there limiting the size, you might could do that. But that, through our negotiations, we were talking about gross numbers.
Is that uncommon to do? Have some stipulations that, hey, you cannot have one big unit that holds 1,000 people. It must be separated out to have, a minimum of 3? Or I don't know how you would word that.
I think that the market's going to be, I think the market kind of takes care of that for us.
Okay.
If you look at the apartments that we have here, they all seem to come in 300 unit increments.
Okay.
300 seems to be the magic number. It might be 298, it might be, the high 2s, low 3s, but they're all around the 300 mark.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And then the construction materials. And this is one that is in there that was in the existing plan. Is 700 square feet per gross acre of residential. Be dedicated for parks and may be dedicated to the city with the city developing. So this does not, when you see the little neighborhoods, you'll have the cul-de-sacs, the different sections and phases. They'll have neighborhood parks in them. That isn't a neighborhood park type thing. These would be city parks that would be open to anybody and everybody. The others, the HOA parks would be built with HOA funds, maintained by the HOA, and be subject to the HOA restrictions. This was one that was kind of a no-give. I call them the nose garages that we've got that we don't allow in North Augusta now. But of course, he could build those under the existing plan. And so we came to the middle ground, so to speak. On multifamilies of 24 feet or less, he'd be allowed a front garage, single car garage, 8 feet wide, out front. And on lots more than 24 feet, a 16-foot garage would be allowed, double garage. This is where This is different, but of course, today, he could build that. The Spine Road, which was the road, the Blanchard Road that I was mentioning, the Spine Road would be two 12-foot lanes with a 12-foot planted median. A turn lane would be provided at all the intersections. And it'll have a 5-foot sidewalk on one side and an 8-foot multi-purpose walk on the other. The multi-purpose walk was in lieu of putting the bike paths in the roadway itself. And this also helps make up for some of the green space that we're losing with the loss of the golf course. And then on the other corridor streets, we would have a 5-foot sidewalk on one side and an 8-foot multi-purpose path on the other. And all neighborhood streets will have sidewalks on each side. Sidewalks, he didn't like sidewalks and stuff, but you know, as I told him, when you look at the city of North Augusta, pedestrian, exercise, bicycling, walking, that's big to our citizens, and it was important that we have something in here.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way we could convince him to not have front-loading garages?
No, sir. And if you can come up with something, I'm more than happy to take it to him, but that was a deal breaker, quote unquote. And when we got down to a rather long day one day about this, and we broke for lunch, came back, and he said, all right, Tommy, I've made my phone calls to my builders. This is the best I can do, because we were concerned about those front-loading garages as well.
How's the terrain out there?
I haven't walked it, to be honest with you.
I mean, where he's planning to build these houses, they're not gonna have those steep driveways, are they, where everything runs into the street?
I would figure he's probably going to flatten that out, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Now, in full disclosure, what this developer does is he builds, you've got several people there, but he gets sites prepared, and then you'll have the home builders come in and build on those sites, the tract builders.
Okay, thank you.
Tommy, there's one thing on that point I was looking at about the garages. 24-foot lot, 8 feet single car. 25-foot lot, 16 foot.
Yes.
And it just seems like we might be, we're concerned about the percentage of the frontage that's garage, and this could make it that, like I say, you'd have a 16-foot garage and 9 more feet of the rest of the building. Just don't know how that works in, or what he would be thinking, whether we could, rather than say lots more than 24 feet, whether it would be lots of 30 feet or something of that nature.
This was the numbers he bought back supposedly from his builders.
Yeah.
And I understand, because I had that same angst,
Yeah.
so to speak.
You know, when it comes to the garage doors, though, I mean, the front-facing ones, I mean, I know you're trying to restrict it on the newer stuff going forward, but if you drive around town, I guarantee you'll find them everywhere. I mean, some of the older neighborhoods, I was just thinking, like over Bowling Road, that area, I mean, almost every one of those are front-facing. I don't think it's really hurting much. I mean, it's up to him to sell these things or rent them.
What we come down to is the tract home builders have their standard plans,
Right.
and they don't want to deviate from those standard plans.
No, because it costs
That's true.
money.
Yes.
The only other question I had is with the parks dedicated to the city. So essentially, if the city didn't want to take those on, there probably would not be that green space into the development.
Probably not.
Okay.
That would be something, there's a big word up there to me that says may. And to me, that says city council, if y'all decide you don't want to take them, you're not required to take it.
Why couldn't we require him to develop them and then
I guess that's
pass
where I
them
was
on
leading
to,
to.
pass them on to the
You led my
city?
question. Yeah.
And that's a good question. He, be honest with you, I was plugging this one out of the old one and keeping it in there, and that's what the ordinance we're under now says, so that's what I put in there. That is something, if y'all wanted to make that change, you certainly can. Now, I don't know how that would fly with him, but, you know, it is council's ordinance to pass and to make changes and be happy with, so to speak. Anything else on this one? I'm not doing good on my time, am I, boss?
Too many questions.
There we go. The next one is bluegrass. You probably remember this one, the Mealing Track. It came to you a few months back and got approved, and they came in and started talking to me about build to rent, where instead of building single-family homes and selling them, you build single-family homes and rent them, kind of like Sweetwater Commons. Build to rent is a term I've come to know the last few months. And we're starting to hear more of this concept. But they said, you know, they were going to build the single-family detached and on one lot and then just record it later on if they decide to sell and do the same thing with single-family detached. And I said, time out, that's not what got approved. We need to go back and talk to council on those. So basically what they're requesting in the general development plan changes is track E, which I'll show you in a minute, changes the single family from being on single family lots to they'll be on one lot of record, 52 units. On track F, which was single family attached, would be on one parcel, one lot of record, and would be rentals. Also to change, not as major as they deleted the dead end road between track A and stormwater area going to Golden Road. Remember, we had that connection issue there. And then there's a realignment of the connector road. They increased the area for track A, which is the apartments, that was approved as apartment rentals, okay, the apartments. And there are about 300 units in there, by the way. From 11.1 acres to 12.9 acres. And then we've been talking with the developers of the apartments. And there's some things that they need, and that would normally go before the Planning Commission to ask for waivers. But since they were going through this process of changing the development plan, they asked for it to be included in the general development plan. So that is where these issues are coming from. And one is that track A, which is the apartments, have a maximum front setback of 140 feet instead of 25 feet. And that's for the apartments to be set back so you have the parking lots and stuff in there. The building elevations of A, B, E, and F will comply with the current code. The planning is not required in any utility easement on the parcel. Minimum width for perimeter parking landscape is reduced from 15 feet to 5 feet between the Spine Road and a parking lot area. And basically, making it fit between that easement in the back where the stormwater pipe is going, making it all fit. They're running out of room between it and the road, and they're requesting to reduce that down to 5 feet.
Will all the parking be in the rear or in front?
I'll show you. It's around. It's an apartment house. It's all around them. Oh, I went the wrong way. And this is an example of the single family detached that they're proposing to build. They said it'll rent about $2,000 a month. And this would be the single family attached that they would like to build, the concept plan.
Those are similar to Riverside Village Apartments. Same concept, basically.
Gotcha. And this is what was previously approved.
Was this approved when it was going to be a golf course?
No, sir. We didn't have a golf course in this one.
Okay.
This shows you the layout that was previously approved of the roads. And this shows you the acreage revisions, basically how they're changing the areas, mainly on A. Yeah, but before this one, this is the road layout. You'll see instead of on the first one what was approved, you had a road that veered off and came in at the top with that road, and that one's gone now to provide acreage for the apartments. And you have a left turn there just on the other side of the park that takes you around and back out to Martintown Road. So you still have both exits on Martintown Road. They're going to have to work with the Mexican restaurant there some with his parking lot, and probably, from my understanding, is turn that restaurant around so that the customer base is coming in from the north side instead of the south side.
Now, what is the out parcel?
That's the Mexican restaurant. That's not a part of this project.
Okay.
And when you look at E and F, remember, I think it was 52 single-family dwellings that you could have and about 80 single-family attached. When you see the lots drawn out there in both of these sections, that's not representative of the actual number. Those in E, I forget what the number is, but in F there's about 50 lots there, and you can have about 80. So I just mentioned that for general information. As they told me, that's conceptual.
My question, the one that's marked A,
Yes, sir.
go to the next slide. It shows the apartment.
Correct.
Is that the whole section of A?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
In fact, I hadn't noticed it before, but over on the left where it goes down by the detention pond, you know, that was where the other road was going. And that is why they need the 140 feet, as you see how the parking is laid out around there, to get them in.
So removal of the road actually just gave them more ability to have more units.
Correct.
I don't know that it gave them more unit, it gave them more space.
So now is each one of these buildings about 300 units, or this whole complex is like 300?
The whole complex.
Okay.
And then this is what it looks like, conceptual drawing.
Will it have an elevator?
I don't know, that's a building code issue. Will it have an elevator? You know, Tom? I honestly don't know.
Will it have all those pretty trees that are around it right now?
4-story.
We will have, there will be a landscape, it will be landscaped. That's a not so pretty picture of it.
Looks like a college campus.
And that's it, unless y'all got something else.
Well, I'm just going to ask the question. So now they want to take the lots that we approved for single-family homes and combine it to one lot, more or less.
Correct. And,
I don't like that. That's really no different than approving another apartment complex there, except for it's single-family homes. And if a company down the road buys it and doesn't care what it looks like, it can get run down real easy. I'm not a fan of this.
What's the reasoning behind that request?
They could sell it.
And they were trying to rent them too, correct? They're going to be rentals.
yes,
Yeah.
there'll be rentals. It's part of the build to rent. Now, as far as the business plan and why they're deciding to do that, I will tell you that the gentleman that I've been dealing with, he won't be here for council next week, but the principal of Realty Link that's involved in this project, he will be here, along with the design engineers, and that's probably some good questions for him as far as why they're making the particular decisions they're making, because I really don't get into that.
I'll throw a guess out there, just like Ironwood. Once soon as it was built, somebody sold it. That's probably their plan, is to build this up and then be able to sell it all to one person. I'll go say I'm not a fan of that at all, because that means eventually, you could have someone come in and buy it that doesn't care. It could run downhill. I'm gonna be against that. I mean, there's just no way, with all them things. I understand the apartments, but essentially what we're doing is we're approving another set of apartments that just have 50-something houses on it.
Okay. Well, that concludes the first portion of the study session, which is the review of the agenda, and I figured that was going to be the meat and potatoes of that, was talking about these two major items. And so with that, we'll go ahead and move right into item 2, which is the Department of Details, and we'll be led off with Linda from Finance.
Good evening. I have a quick correction on my department details. I transposed my cycle numbers. So the July 18th due date will be for our cycle 2 customers, and our July 19th and 20th disconnect will be for our cycle 1 customers. And that is it, unless y'all have something for me.
Next, we'll have James on Public Services.
Good evening. To follow up on the material recovery facility fire, we went out over the past few weeks, have been talking to a lot of contractors, trying to get some pricing on estimating to do some demolition of the tipping floor area where a lot of the heat damaged that big floor that's right in the front where the garbage is placed under the area to weatherproof it. That whole roof line has got to come out. Due to the pricing, we're going ahead and have our staff go ahead and take it out this week. So we're renting some equipment, and we're going to demolish it and sell the metal, and hopefully we'll get a return of investment that'll cover a portion of the rental of the equipment. Any questions?
How about the sewer line,
I'm sorry?
the southwest, is it complete?
Oh, well, that emergency repair is, yes, sir.
Okay.
Right now, jumping off subject, we're working with AECom. Rachel and I have been in conversation with them. We just last week before last, we're pursuing a RIA, some funding from the state level that's going to blend in with that to allow us to hopefully do more work. So we'll know something, and we'll update you on that in the near future.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Moving forward, utilities continues to do flow and pressure testing throughout various areas of the city. They just finished around the Hammond Hills area, tested approximately 160 fire hydrants to date. They're in the downtown area now, which include Carolina, West Avenue, East Avenue. So if customers experiencing discolored water, to which I think as of now we haven't had many, we'll just ask them to call Public Services and report it, and we'll get it cleared up for them. Any questions? Thank you.
No, sir, thank you.
Followed by a very brief update from Tommy.
Like a bad dream, I'm back. Board of Zoning Appeals is tomorrow night. Next week, we'll have the Planning Commission. And in case you didn't hear the scream of happiness today, we received DOT approval to execute the contract on the George Avenue traffic calming study. So we'll be moving forward with that.
All right, Chief Thomas for Public Safety.
For public safety, the end of the Watch Ride was this morning, which is also beyond the call of duty, was here in North Augusta to honor Dustin Beasley. I appreciate everybody that came out and supported public safety in that regard. A lot of people came out and thanked us and gave us a lot of support, so we thank you for that. Also, to remind you, on the 27th of this month, Dustin Beasley will be inducted to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Hall of Fame in Columbia, South Carolina, on Broad River Road next to the Academy. And then myself, along with the command staff and departmental supervisor, will be in an in-house team building conference on the last of this month, July the 26th and the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick will bring up PRT.
The North Augusta Cultural Arts Council will host their last Music in the Park event this Thursday evening at Maud Enfield Park, with the Chris Nadetti Trio performing at 7 p.m. If it should happen to rain, of course, it moves inside to the community center. And only fitting that July would be National Parks and Recreation Month, as we host, starting Sunday, the 2022 Nike Peach Jam for Sunday through Sunday. So come see us. Any questions?
Not really a question, but I'll go ahead for anybody listening. The rec center will be closed to its members during Peach Jam, correct?
Well, no, there is an exception to that.
Okay.
You can come use the track or cardio room, but please come do so first thing in the morning, like 6 a.m. when we open to about 9 a.m. First games should start about 9:30, and you really don't want to. You can be there, but you really don't want to be there because it'll be kind of busy.
Doors are going to be open to the public this year?
That is correct. Admission, there will be general admission. Tickets will be sold for the event, and I'm sure they'll cut it off at a certain number of tickets. I don't know how many they're giving away to the family members of the teams.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Tom for Public Works and Engineering.
So we have received final plans for the Bluff Avenue streetscape, which also includes the Downtown Greenway Connector, Phase 1. We intend to, within the next 2 weeks, have that project out for bids. I don't have an exact bid date yet, but for those of you who watch the city's bid page, you should see that here, like I said, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. good news. In conjunction with that, I don't think I reported this last time, but Dominion has advised us that they will begin their relocation of their overhead utilities within the month of August. So that's these projects, they should all align pretty well together. Should be a mess down there pretty soon, hopefully. Other than that, the Knob Cone Sidewalk project, we also have received SCDOT approval of our plans, which means we can, again, then hopefully get that project out for bid here within the next 3 to 4 weeks, hopefully.
That's great news.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll have some competitive bids on it.
Everything.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And I'll cover down for JD. So all of our positions that are open are currently posted on the North Augusta website. And unfortunately, I have to highlight that we have a new posting on there for city clerk for Sharon's replacement. So we have a number of other positions as well to include within public safety. We're looking for dispatchers, firefighters, and public safety officers. Rick Meyer has a couple positions open within PRT. And then we also have a number of utility and sanitation openings within James Sutton's department. So wide variety of jobs that are available, and we're always looking for good candidates. And that completes our department details, and so I will turn it back over to Mayor Pro Tem Brooks for Mayor's Matters. And that's the conclusion of the remarks from staff.
Thank you, sir. Two things I'd like to remind you of. On Wednesday, excuse me, Wednesday of this week, July 13th, the Chamber is sponsoring a civic engagement for their summer North Augusta Chamber Junior Leadership Academy, and that will be hosted here in the city. They will begin at Brick Pond Park with tours by Tanya Strickland. Then they will tour the municipal building with Miss Moody. And I'd like to ask some of the council members and department heads if you're able to be in here at 9:15 to discuss your role that you play with the city. And these are young students at Paul Knox and North Augusta Middle who have been selected by the Chamber for their outstanding leadership so far. And then they will travel to, we're only asking for about 30 minutes here of your time. And they will travel to Aiken County Government Center at 9:45. They will go to the voter registration office to find out the details about how do you register to vote. And then they will have lunch at Bridgestone. They have a business tour and an industry tour. That's a great program that the Chamber has revised, and they revise it every year, and it gets better and better. There are 8 students from Paul Knox, and there's 1 from North Augusta Middle. And there were some others that had been selected, but they could not make it. So this is the Junior Leadership Academy of the Chamber of Commerce. And congratulations to all of these students and to the Chamber as well for their role in the leadership. One final thing is I'd like to remind you of, well, there are 2 things. Jim, do you know when the Aiken Regional will be opening? When's that river cutting?
So on my calendar, subject to revisal from the Aiken Regional folks, let me pull up my calendar here. I believe I had it.
It's 18th, isn't it?
I'll tell you momentarily here. I have it blocked out at 2 p.m. on the 18th of July, Monday.
That's correct, yeah. The other one is, Almost Home we'll be having a groundbreaking celebration in Aiken. This is a children's place that is being built in Aiken. And you're invited to attend if you like. Dunkin' Donuts, coffee, sweet treats, etc. will be served. And you need to RSVP. Too late, by June the 30th, that's too late. Anything from council members? David? Okay. We have one more item. We need to go into an executive session. Find my notes. What is that doing in here? Here we go. An executive session is being requested by the city administrator in compliance with section 30-4-70. A2, the city administrator requests an executive session for the purpose of discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements and proposed sale or purchase of property, the receipt of legal advice where the legal advice relates to a pending, threatened, or potential claim, or other matters covered with the attorney-client privilege, settlement of legal claims, or the position of the public agency in other adversary situations involving the assertion against the agency of a claim. A discussion is specifically related to the possible sale of Aiken County tax parcels number 007-15-03-001, 007-15-03-010, and the third is 007-15-03-011. B of our discussion will be, a discussion is relative to potential land acquisition or future public safety needs. There will be no action taken by council, and we will not be returning to open session. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So move. I'll second.
Okay. You moved and you seconded. All in favor? We'll go to executive session. I'd like to thank you folks for coming tonight, and I hope this was exciting to you, all the new things that are beginning to take place here in North Augusta. We hope you have a good week. Thank you.